Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. A black boy interrupts the judge in court and says 2 words. The judge instantly turns pale. On a cold, gray November morning in Chicago, the Cook County Courthouse stood like an imposing monument, its dark stone facade overlooking the busy street. Inside, in courtroom 7B, the atmosphere was electric but silent. A dense crowd had gathered, filling every seat, every corner, as if everyone was waiting for a crucial moment. Hushed whispers circulated, glances exchanged, while the fluorescent ceiling lights diffused a white, almost pale light, giving faces a tired, tense, and sometimes contorted look. At the center of this attention was Angela Johnson. Sitting in the dock, her eyes never took their eyes off the void before her, or rather, what she could see through the bulletproof glass. Angela was a woman in her 40s, whose face bore the marks of years of struggle and sacrifice, but also an unyielding determination. Her hands rested calmly on her knees, trembling at times, but never enough to betray her courage. Her features, of understated beauty, were framed by neatly tied strands of black hair. She wore a simple, unadorned dress, a reflection of her modesty and dignity. Angela had been a nurse for over 15 years, respected in her South Side neighborhood. A single mother, she raised her son, Malik, alone, with all the love and discipline she could offer. But now she faced a charge that could take everything away from her: falsification of medical documents. According to the indictment, she had altered official records to obtain medication and urgent care for a homeless patient in mortal danger. An illegal action, certainly, but motivated by a humanitarian emergency. For Angela, it was a matter of life and death, a moral dilemma that had brought her here. At the bar, Judge Robert Whitman watched the scene with an impassive expression. A man of about 60, with a weathered face and silver hair, he was known for his unwavering rigor, his strict sense of justice, and his cold impartiality. His reputation in the county was that of an upright, stern, and sometimes feared man. He wore the black robe with natural authority, and his penetrating gaze slowly swept the room, as if weighing every soul present. Silence fell as the judge took his seat, the clatter of his gavel echoing through the room, signaling the start of the hearing. The lawyers had already presented their arguments, the witnesses had delivered their testimonies, some damning, others moving. But still, the weight of the law seemed to weigh heavily on Angela, who remained stoic. At the back of the room, in a dimly lit row, a 13-year-old boy clutched a small, worn-cover notebook. Malik Johnson, Angela's only son, stared at the scene before him, his heart pounding. He had never known his father, and all his life, he had carried within him an unsolved mystery. But now, deep down, he knew that the man who occupied Justice Robert Whitman's seat was hiding a secret no one had yet dared to reveal. Malik nervously rubbed his fingers against the pages of his notebook, where he sometimes jotted down thoughts, memories, unanswered questions. He had grown up with the pain of silence and secrecy, but he was determined to understand, to make his voice heard. And, without knowing it, this day in court would change all of their destinies forever. Judge Whitman, frowning, prepared to conclude the hearing. His voice, firm and deep, filled the courtroom, hanging on his words. Ms. Johnson, the evidence presented during this trial clearly shows that you deliberately altered official documents. The law is clear and cannot be ignored, even if your intentions, as you claim, were good. He paused, weighing each syllable. His gaze swept the room, seeming to invite uncompromising justice. Suddenly, there was a sharp noise. A chair screeched harshly against the floor of the room. Everyone's eyes instinctively turned to the back of the room. Standing amidst the rows of stunned spectators, Malik Johnson, the 13-year-old boy, stood. His face was calm, his gaze fixed intensely on the judge. His hands clasped, he walked forward with a confident step, silently defying the seemingly intangible authority. A stunned silence fell over the room. The judge, his features hardening, ordered in a dry, almost scathing voice. "Young man, sit down immediately." But Malik didn't flinch. His voice, though young, carried a tone of maturity and determination surprising for his age. I must speak, sir. A murmur ran through the room. The lawyers exchanged glances, the bailiffs hesitated, some straightened up, sensing that this moment was beyond the usual rules. Whitman scowled, visibly annoyed by the unexpected interruption. His voice took on a sterner tone. This court is not a show stage. You must respect the procedures and stay in your place. But Malik, unyielding, took another step forward, his eyes shining with deep conviction. Please listen to me. The silence became heavy, as if suspended in time. Everyone held their breath, aware that this moment would change the course of the hearing. The whispers had died down. Attention was now entirely focused on this boy who, against all odds, was defying authority with courage and truth. Malik approached the stand slowly, each step echoing heavily in the heavy silence of the courtroom. His breathing was calm, controlled, as if drawing on an inner strength far greater than his years. His eyes, filled with unwavering determination, briefly sought the gaze of his mother, Angela, who gave him a discreet, almost imperceptible nod, a glimmer of encouragement mixed with fear and hope. Then, with a confidence that made the very air around them waver, Malik turned to Judge Robert Whitman, his gaze fixed directly on the eyes of the man sitting up there behind the massive desk. He took a deep breath and, in a clear, calm voice, said two words that shifted the balance of the room. "Hello, Dad." A deafening silence fell immediately. An almost palpable shock rippled through the room, like a seismic wave. Judge Whitman's face suddenly paled, as if an icy cold had invaded his body. His features, previously impassive and stern, degenerated before everyone's incredulous eyes. His hands trembled, resting on the polished wood of the desk, trying to hold on to something to keep from faltering. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, as if to contain an inner storm, a wave of panic no one would have believed could reach this man known for his absolute control. All eyes were fixed on him, searching his pale face for the slightest reaction, a sign, a confession. But Malik, imperturbable, repeated in a firm and clear tone, charged with a force that was not yet known in him. "Hello, Dad." In the room, emotions ran high. A few nervous whispers, glances exchanged, eyes that misted over. Angela, with tears in her eyes, her voice barely a breath, whispered with heartbreaking sweetness. "Malik." She knew, deep down, that this moment would break the silence, reveal buried truths, and mark the beginning of irreversible change. This boy, her son, had just taken his destiny into his own hands, bringing a long-kept secret to light. That day, everything changed. The revelation falls like a guillotine. A shockwave shakes the courtroom. Malik's words still hang in the air, heavy, undeniable, while the silence becomes almost unbearable. The lawyers, frozen, exchange incredulous glances. Then, almost simultaneously, the defense attorney jumps to his feet, his voice echoing in the room. "Your Honor, we request an immediate adjournment, in light of the circumstances just revealed." The prosecutor, previously impassive, suddenly seems unsettled. He slowly straightens, visibly hesitant, his eyes fixed on Judge Whitman as if waiting for a word, an order, an explanation. But nothing comes. Robert Whitman, usually so sure of himself, so firm, is unable to utter a single word. His gaze is lost, his face emptied of all authority. The judge's mask has crumbled. Under the shocked and accusing stares, he slowly rises, walks around his seat, and hurriedly leaves the room, without even striking his gavel. The doors slam shut behind him with a sharp clang, like a death knell. Angela remains seated, keeping her eyes fixed on her son. A tear slowly rolls down her cheek, but it's no longer fear or shame. It's a mixture of relief and pain. The truth is finally out. And it no longer belongs to her. In the days that followed, the affair exploded in the media. Every newspaper, every local, then national, channel picked up the story. Headlines flashed across the screens. Judge Whitman, a figure of integrity, accused of prosecuting the mother of his own son. Secret affair, abandonment, trial, the past catches up with the county judge. Reporters camped outside the Cook County Courthouse. Some tracked down Angela's former colleagues at the hospital where she worked. Others rummaged through files from her days as a quiet, dedicated young night nurse. Confidential documents quickly leaked, internal exchanges, old emails, discreet correspondence between Robert Whitman, then a young, married lawyer with a promising career ahead of him, and a certain Angela J., a nursing student. The evidence was irrefutable: they had an affair. Brief, but real. And above all, a date, the same year as Malik's birth. The scandal is immense. In the weeks following the explosive revelation, Angela Johnson's case was re-examined with renewed attention. Under pressure from public opinion and the media, the Cook County District Court judges decided to reopen the case, this time with renewed impartiality. Evidence that had previously been ignored or hidden is finally being taken into account: testimonies from colleagues attesting to the selfless nature of Angela's act, medical reports highlighting the patient's vital urgency, and above all, the incredible weight of the family's secret revealed. After several additional hearings, the verdict finally came in: Angela Johnson was cleared of all charges. The court acknowledged that her actions, while technically illegal, were motivated by a desire to save a human life and not by any fraudulent intent. At the same time, Malik quickly became a media figure. His courage and sincerity in the face of authority resonated beyond the courtroom. He embodied the voice of the oppressed, the one who refused to remain silent in the face of injustice. Journalists nicknamed him the boy who told the truth. Civil rights groups offered him support and invited him to participate in conferences and awareness campaigns. Malik, despite his young age, has become a voice for minorities. His simple yet powerful intervention has inspired many to break the silence, denounce abuses of power, and demand fair justice. As for Robert Whitman, the scandal relentlessly caught up with him. His forced resignation marked the end of his judicial career, tarnished by what is now considered serious moral and professional misconduct. Discredited and isolated, Whitman gradually fades from public life. Rumors say he now lives as a recluse, haunted by his choices and the revelations of his past. His name, once synonymous with authority and justice, becomes a symbol of hypocrisy and betrayal. For Angela and Malik, this ordeal, as difficult as it is, becomes a source of renewal. Freed from the legal threat, Angela returns to her nursing job with renewed energy and conviction. She finds new strength in the support of her community, her friends, and especially her son. Angela and Malik's already strong bond grows even stronger. Together, they face the future, fueled by a bright hope, that of a life built on truth, dignity, and justice. They also engage in community action, determined to ensure that others do not suffer the same injustices.